Recent cases of ordinary Singaporeans stepping in during dangerous incidents have put citizen bravery in the spotlight. From tackling an armed attacker to helping strangers in distress, some people act before most of us have even worked out what's happening. But when danger unfolds in front of you, is stepping in always the bravest or safest thing to do? Caitlin Ng looks at what drives that split-second choice.
Now imagine you're walking along a void deck just like this on the way home, when you notice something happening up ahead. There's some commotion, some shouting, screaming. Someone seems to be getting attacked. Now you're not sure if the attacker is armed, but you only have seconds to decide what to do. Would you go up to them? Would you run away? Call for help? What exactly would you do in this situation? Well, I'd like to think that I know, but the more I thought about it, the less sure I was. Because choosing to help is one thing, knowing whether or not it'll actually help is another.
For some, that decision isn't hypothetical. You might have already seen these headlines of how 56-year-old Osman Sidin subdued a knife-wielding man outside Clementi Mall. Mr. Osman was on his way to a medical appointment when he saw the man, who had already stabbed himself several times. He stepped in, grappled with him, and pinned him to the ground. Mr. Osman has a background in Silat, but even so, choosing to move towards someone with a knife is a huge call. So I wanted to understand, what makes someone step in when the rest of us might hesitate? And would the rest of us react the same way?
If you were walking along this boardwalk and you saw an attack happening, like someone was attacking another person, what would you do?
Well, we'll run away. That's the best. That's a wise decision for me.
Then if I could tell they're not armed, if I have a bag or something which I might have, I'll just whack over the guy's head.
Then I'll call for help. Like I'll call 999.
If there were other people around me, I'd see if they could help me contain the situation as well while we wait for help to arrive.
My first instinct would be to seek shelter and make sure that the other people also evacuate me.
What struck me is how sure some of us were about what we'd do. But saying it here is one thing. Actually being faced with danger with no time to think is something else entirely.
So how much can we really know about what we do when faced with an actual situation?
To understand that, I went to speak with Dr. Annabelle Chow, a clinical psychologist, on what goes on behind decisions made in crises.
So I wanted to find out what happens psychologically when someone is faced with an immediate danger. What goes on in someone's mind?
When there's immediate danger, our body kicks into a survivalistic, automatic and default state. So that means it goes into fight, flight or freeze. Usually it will be more situational, so it will be, whether there are weapons, it will be like how dangerous it is, who is in the environment.
In some of my conversations I've had with people, we put them in hypothetical situations and they're able to tell me, oh, I'll do this. Are people actually effectively able to predict what they do in these situations, or does it usually differ when it comes down to it?
I don't think we can reliably actually hypothesize that we will really do this, because in a state of calm, we are actually able to think straight and strategize, and we are able to say, yes, I will do these things. But in a state of panic, for example, when there's blood, there's noise, there's screaming, there's a weapon. Many years ago, my son actually fell into the pool, and I always thought that I would actually kick into action and be able to just bring him up, right? But unfortunately, I froze. And when I speak to people, very often people have very similar experiences. I think it's also quite important to offer yourself some self-compassion that your brain was under stress and it reacts the way that it knows how, but learning a response and telling your brain what to do next time can be a helpful way to remedy it.
So you're saying training mental preparedness can sort of become a muscle memory that kicks in those situations?
Absolutely. So it's the same as like CPR. So if you learn the steps, you practice it, you have the muscle memory, you have the mental memory, you have a better chance, but it still doesn't reliably mean that you will definitely kick into action.
So already, our starting question, would you step in, is getting a little more complicated to answer. Physical intervention, like in the case of Mr. Osman, can sometimes stop an immediate threat. But it also carries a risk. because if someone is armed, moving towards them could end badly. So when does stepping in help, and when could it actually make things worse?
I think both courage and recklessness both can stem from fear. I think the only difference is how you exercise judgment and how you actually execute the behavior. So courage is usually when you exercise good judgment in terms of knowing that you're confident, you have the skills to manage it, you're not going to put more people at risk, you can actually offer more safety. So then that will be you deciding and exercising your judgment to say, I'm able to do this.
And that's especially important as authorities are asking Singaporeans to be more prepared in emergencies and security threats. But preparedness doesn't necessarily mean confrontation. So in the event of a weapons attack, Singapore's SG Secure advice is to run, hide and tell, with the priority being getting away from the threat if you can, rather than trying to engage the attacker directly. And bystanders can do other things to help the situation as well, be it warning others, calling for help, or assisting the injured when the danger has passed. And this is a pivotal point, because stepping in doesn't necessarily mean putting yourself in harm's way. So, let's go back to where we first started. Someone is being attacked. The assailant may still be armed, and you have seconds to decide. Move closer, get away, call for help. Now at the start the question was whether you would step in. But perhaps the better question is, what can I do here that will actually help? It could mean calling the police or helping someone get away. And what helps in one situation could make another more dangerous. So, before asking yourself, would I be brave enough to step in? Perhaps there are more useful questions. Am I equipped to help? Could my actions put someone else at risk? And what would be most useful right now? After speaking to everyone for this story, I'm still not sure I can tell you exactly what I do here. And perhaps none of us really can until it happens. But maybe being prepared isn't about knowing whether you'd be brave enough to run towards danger. It's knowing there may be more than one way to help when it does.